Alright, onwards. It's a windy day out here, and I've been struggling to try to catch some bait. I've literally been trying to catch bait for like probably an hour out here. It's just been slim pickings. Got a couple of tiny little mullet, and I just got lucky. All right, never in my wildest dreams would I ever think that I would catch a mullet this freaking big in a cast net, and not just a cast net, but a 5-foot cast net. That's just almost unfathomable. He's huge. He's the full length of my cooler and more, actually. Just got lucky and hit that big guy, so I got bait. All right, here we go. No, I just started. How about you? Started. Okay, so this trip was just basically a short 3-day trip that I was coming down to do some kayak fishing. I was really hoping to go offshore, but the wind just wouldn't allow it. As a matter of fact, the first day that I got there, pulled up at one of the public beach accesses. It took me about 25 minutes to get the kayak in order, get it on the kayak cart, load all the rods, the cooler, and roll it all the way out there. And by the time that I got out to the surf, the wind had already kicked up and I just completely missed my window. And from that point, throughout the next 3 days, the wind was just kicking too much to get offshore. So I was stuck inshore, but you know, that's all right. There's still plenty of fish to be had inshore. So this was the first redfish of the trip. Not a very big guy, but it's nice to know that they were in the places that I was targeting. He was definitely going back. He swam off nice and healthy there. But in North Carolina, the fish that you keep have to be within a slot limit. They have to be between 18 to 27 inches, so he wouldn't have made it anyway. If you try to keep the really, really large ones, they, in my opinion, they don't taste as good anyway. So I had set up kind of in the back of this marshy area to try to get out of the wind a little bit. As you can tell here, it wasn't really working very well, but it was really about the calmest area that I could find. But I found this one little spot where it seemed like a pod of fish had started to move in. It was kind of just one right after the other, either reds or small blues or trout, something like that. But I was still using the jig head with small pieces of cut bait on it, and it seemed to be doing the trick. This was kind of at the transition of the tide, so I think the fish had kind of turned back around to head back out to deeper water. But this fish just absolutely hammered the jig, and it really surprised me. I thought I had a really big red, but as you'll see here, this fish really surprised me. Oh my God! Is that real? I was putting up a really, really good fight, and I thought it was a redfish until I was just getting ready to put the net under it, and I realized it was a speckled sea trout, which this fish was absolutely huge for a speckled sea trout. At first I couldn't believe it. It's probably the biggest speckled trout that I've caught in years, and so this was really a nice surprise. Unfortunately, right now the season's closed on them. You know, I knew that I had to release them, but man, what a good fight! Just what a beautiful fish here. Big old fat belly on this fish. Very, very healthy looking. Just trying my best to be gentle, whenever you take out the hooks, and you want to be careful when you're lifting them. So making sure that I had a good grip on him here before raised him up for the camera.
God, look at that freaking trout.
So yeah, that's a hoss of a trout. That would probably be a citation sea trout. Back in the water he goes to fight for another day. Hopefully I will catch back up with him later on in the season. Usually artificials is what I'm using out here. I'll use mostly paddle tails and bucktails. I like to fish topwater, but I fish a lot with a fly rod out here as long as the you know, the weather allows. Of course, when it's blowing like this, 12 to 15 knots, you're not really going to have a whole lot of luck on the fly rod. So since I was, you know, fishing for food, just decided to go with the cut bait. I'm using a 20-pound test leader on, I think, 25-pound braid, and then different sizes of hooks. I think here I'm probably using something like maybe a number 4 circle hook, and then on the other rod I've actually got a jig head, probably like a 1/4 ounce jig head that sometimes I'll put a paddle tail on there, but sometimes I'll just put a little piece of cut bait on there. And that little bit of color on the jig head, they actually see that first. That seems to outproduce just like a regular hook for me. If I see like a school of tailing fish, you know, I'll just pop a paddle tail on that jig head. And the downside to the jig head, at least this size that I was using, is that, you know, if you get a big stingray, he could bend it up. But anyway, this was a nice little red. You know, this is a typical size for the inshore areas here. They're not going to be as big as the ones that you get offshore, but he's a good little fish. But we will put him back and look for him another day. So I was doubled up here with a fish on each rod, and I knew that this one big red was probably going to be my keeper for the day, but it ended up being better than I expected, as I ended up with 2 fish to take home for dinner.
Yeah, he is coming home with me, baby.
So I apologize for the for the wind noise on this video. I know it's a bit extreme. I was trying a new camera remote system, and it kept automatically turning off my my wind buffer, and for some reason it would zoom in or zoom out automatically. So this is why you'll see some of these shots that are just uncomfortably zoomed in. But I tried to make of it what I could. But anyway, man, this little red, he was just giving it what for. He was trying everything he could to wrap me around my stakeout pole here. Normally, I can usually avoid the stakeout pole and then run for it. Man, he was just giving it what for. You can tell I put a little float on the middle of my stakeout pole line, and that makes it easier to hop a fish over if I need to every now and then. Doesn't always work, but in this case, this worked out really good. But man, this little red was a fighter. One of the reasons why the redfish fight so hard, aside from their really large tail fin, is they have that extended long posterior dorsal fin. So they flare those fins out and they turn themselves sideways, and they can just apply that much more resistance, and it just adds to the mystique of this fish. They're such a beautiful fish. A lot of times whenever you bring them in, they just get really colored up with this golden, like amber color. And of course, they always have that little spot around their tail, especially when they're young. You might see them with 4 or 5. I mean, I've seen them upwards of 10 spots. As they get older, they end up losing a lot of those spots, and they'll just have the one really big tail spot.
Just a little. Yeah. Still not a bad fish. Alright, till we meet again. Oh yeah. Oh, it's one of those big specks.
So the sea trout right now have a temporary closure due to what is known as cold stun events that we had back in January. Those cold snaps can definitely reduce the population. So, a temporary closure or a slot limit can actually help them regain their numbers back over time. So, I don't mind releasing, a good fish here and there. It's really hard to release one this big, but as long as it helps the fish come back, I'm totally fine with releasing fish.
All right, please don't bite me. Oh, now that is a speckled trout. Woo! Woo! Yes, sir.
So it was getting kind of late in the day here. The wind had picked back up, and I realized I needed to start making my way back over to the marina. But I wanted to make a few more casts before I battened down the hatches and began the paddle back into the wind. Ended up hooking into something that was really nice here. It was putting up a really good fight. I thought I had like a really big redfish, but then I realized there were no head shakes or no tail beats, and realized it was a stingray. I know stingrays, you can't eat them. They're actually quite good to eat, but for me personally, whenever there are redfish around, I usually just keep the redfish. But they are good to eat. There's no bag limits on stingray. They're fairly easy to clean, but whenever you're bringing them in, you do need to be careful. Obviously, they do have that stinger, and some people will place like a towel over their tail to keep it from whipping up. But really, all you need to do is just kind of keep your hands and body away from the upper side of their body, because they won't whip their tail along the underside of their body, because the stinger is on the upper side of their tail. I do opt to use like extended hook removers which just makes it easier to get the hook out. I think it's better on the Stingray in the long run for the release as well. Just makes it a little easier. Yeah, the winds were just not going to cooperate. I thought I was going to get a little extra fishing time. They had died down temporarily, but then they kicked back up, and the water was starting to get choppy. It's you don't really see it here because I'm in kind of a calm area, but the area that I have to paddle through, and then I have to kind of paddle around this point, the current and the wind was pushing pretty hard through there. So I figured, I would just go ahead and batten down the hatches and get everything situated for the paddle, and just kind of play it on the safe side. It was getting close to sunset, and as long as I could kind of make it around the point and get back into there's like a little cove over near the kayak slip. Sometimes you get a little calm area there. As long as I could make it to that area, I knew I'd be okay there. So time to put everything in its rightful place and begin this paddle back around the point. I don't recommend paddling into high winds or currents if you're not experienced or if you don't have the right kind of kayak. It is possible to get stranded, especially after sunset. So please use caution when doing something like this.
This paddle's gonna suck, but that's the way it's got to be done. Still in the nice calm area, relatively calm right now. Getting ready to paddle into, it's probably 13 mile-an-hour winds, 12, 13, something like that.
So this kayak does have a bit of advantage in high winds and currents. This specific kayak is really made for like offshore type paddling. It's strictly a paddle kayak, and it doesn't have the pedal fins that stick out underneath, so you can actually really get it going. It's a lot more streamlined, and each kayak has kind of its strengths and weaknesses, and going offshore in heavy currents or high winds, I'd highly recommend a kayak that is over 12 feet, and it's really going to give you a huge advantage offshore. This kayak is almost 15 feet, and it really performs well. This is the Viking ProFish Reload, and its streamlined nature and stability just really makes all the difference in situations like this. And so, even paddling into a headwind, you can still make progress. So if you need to push through a really windy section, to get to a calm section, it just makes all the difference. So kind of be mindful. It is possible to get stranded. It would not be a good thing to get stranded in the back of a marsh or something after sunset. And even if you're kind of prepared for it, it's not going to be a very pleasant situation. So take the right precautions when you need to, and better safe than sorry, I guess. So I did get lucky after paddling around the point and found a relatively calm area, at least calm enough to make a few more casts. And see if I could end up the day on a better note. So I grabbed my stakeout pole and buried it as deep as I can, so I could kind of face into the current. Usually prefer to, to have it staked out either on the bow or the stern, depending on which way that the wind or the current is going. I like to always be facing in towards the current. Was able to catch a few more fish before heading in. It just makes a nice ending for the day to get a few more casts before heading back in to get cleaned up and clean the fish and grab some dinner.
Big old trout. Thanks for playing. Later in the year and you would have been fish tacos.
So this was a little footage from the next day. I'm getting ready to pull up the stakeout pole and head back towards the marina. I really enjoy using the stakeout pole here. It's a really good solution in comparison to an anchor. If you're only fishing in 2 to maybe 6 foot of water, it's a good solution because whenever you do use an anchor, you've got so much more rope out. It's easier for the fish to wrap around the anchor rope. You'll have to bring in the anchor, sometimes take the hook out of the anchor rope. Personally, I think it's a lot safer solution as well. Sometimes you can actually get an anchor hung up, around rocks or coral, things like that. There's not a whole lot of that in this particular area, but it's also, an anchor is going to be more dangerous whenever there's heavy currents coming through. So I'm heading back over towards the marina and I'm getting ready to paddle back across the channel. You'll see the green and red buoy here, which marks either side of the channel. As a kayaker, it's important to stay out of the channel lane so you're not blocking any boats coming through. It's also a lot safer. A lot of these boats that are coming in, they're not really paying attention. They're like breaking down rods or cleaning fish or whatever they're needing to do, as they're coming back in. And a lot of times they don't see, the smaller kayaks out there. I like to run a nice large kayak flag on the back. I do keep a radio with me as well. 9 times out of 10, I'm just using it to listen to the weather forecast for reporting an accident, or if you get stranded, or maybe you need a tow. But a radio can really make or break a situation in a scenario like that. You can see here that the water is pretty murky. Each night that I was camped out, a large storm would roll through and just dump heavy rains, and it kind of clouded up the water. But this can actually work to your advantage. You can get away with using heavier leader line. I like to use 20-pound test whenever it's murky like this, and the fish won't usually see it. Usually doesn't bother them in the least. But overall, it was a pretty good trip. I didn't catch a lot of fish, but I caught some really good fish. Several citation size sea trout and redfish up to, I guess, maybe a little over 26 inches. A few bluefish here and there, lots and lots of stingrays in these areas. So as I'm paddling back here, I'm making sure to look over my shoulder as the boats come in through the channel. It's not uncommon for a large boat coming in to push a really large wake. And if you're in a smaller kayak, it is possible for these large boats to capsize you. So you really do need to kind of keep an eye out for them. But yeah, overall, it's a really good trip. I always enjoy coming out here to paddle. It's good exercise, and you get to see a lot of cool wildlife. It's just a really cool area to come out and fish. But anyway, not a bad day. Didn't catch a whole lot of fish. Caught a few good fish, but didn't catch a whole lot. The wind played a big factor, and the barometric pressure was going up and down, and that always affects their feeding patterns. But it was fun. I got to see some really cool fish. Got to see a couple of egrets nabbing some minnows from the bank. Saw some ospreys making some dives, catching some fish. It's just a beautiful area, and when the weather's good, it's a great place to go out for a paddle and go catch a few fish for dinner and just kind of make a day of it.
How's it going?
Hey, you guys.
Any luck out there?
Not today. It was pretty slim pickings today.
Yeah.
Too high and bright for them, I guess.
Yeah. The water looks really nice.
Yeah, it's actually pretty calm. The past couple of days have been blowing a gale.
Yeah.
For some reason, I seem to catch more of them when the weather's bad like that.
That's the way it works. You don't want to get it too easy.
Exactly.
Too nice out. It's like, all right. That's the way it is rock fishing in the winter too.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's what I'm talking about. Big old 26-inch redfish, red drum. Got a little blue already filleted up in the pan, and we're gonna eat good tonight. Gonna eat some fish tacos and still have enough to put in the cooler to take home. It is time to chow down. Oh, it's been a day, let me tell you.